welcome everybody. We will get started in just a moment. Thanks for joining me. This is Eric Stewart. We'll be starting in about 1 to 2 minutes. Thank you. Good morning, everybody. Again, this is Eric Stewart, and I'm so sorry for the technical challenge that we are having. I presented on Tuesday just fine. I've presented over and over and over again just fine. So it seems like there's something beyond our control here with GoToWebinar. I'm going to try to put myself on the screen here. And I don't know if you all can see me or not, but if you can, would you type into, if you can see my screen, see my face and see the presentation that I have here on my screen, would you type in under the questions bar, I can see you, or I can't see you, or I can see the presentation, because it may be that it's not showing you what I can, it's not showing me what you can see, but it looks like, anyway, if one of you all would just type into questions under the questions bar. Yes, okay, you can see me, you can see my face, okay, great. Can you see any of my presentation, or you just see, all you see is my face? We're gonna do this, okay, all me. Okay, well, if I wanted to be a star, this is my chance, right? Thanks, Grant. It's good to have you here, Kirk and John and others as well. So my apologies that that the material that I want to cover today is not something that I can cover, and I'm sincerely sorry. I'm going to go through it with you, and I'm going to explain it because I know it backwards and forwards. We're talking condition today, and specifically, how can you improve the condition of your home so that you can get top dollar for the property? You know, in the current preparation process, this is my 33rd year in real estate, and I'm going to put this more center, so I'm kind of looking at you. There you go. Okay. All right. Let's see if I can't. Okay. My 33rd year in selling houses, and last year our group sold over 160 homes, and I'm grateful for each member of our team. As I have endeavored to try to work diligently for each one of my sellers to get them the most money and to do it with the greatest degree of ethics, I've sought year after year after year, how can I improve the quality of the marketing that I'm doing so that the client gets the best dissemination of information. Once we've polished the stone and we've made your house look its very best according to what makes the most sense. I was in a gentleman's house last week, and he's got a beautiful home, and he's with us today. He'll know who I'm talking about, but he's got a house that he's tried to sell a couple of times, and he's had a couple of pretty good brokers who've attempted to do that. But unfortunately, there are challenges that every single house has, and sometimes it takes selling the things, really selling the value is what Warren Buffett would say. The price is what you pay, but the value is what you get. And so when you sell the value of the house and what the specific benefits of a home are, rather than focusing on what the negatives are or what the challenges are, you'll draw the right buyer in. And just like a light bulb on the back porch, when you have it on, you're going to attract a certain kind of bug. When you are marketing your house effectively, you're going to generate the highest and best price. Now, I've got a great team of agents. There are 10 of us that are licensed in Maryland, DC, and Virginia. And each one of the agents has been trained by me, and it understands the process of getting their house, getting the house up for sale, getting it ready, where to put $1 to get $2 back, and then marketing to get that top dollar. We just had the fortune of selling a property that we assisted the seller in spending $50,000, which was quite a bit of money, but we got a contractor in who focused on the main issues that the home had, which at this point was a home that had not been touched since about 1983, if you can imagine. And it's a dynamic contemporary single-family home, around $1,400,000 in its as-is condition. We put 50 into it and sold it for $1,500,000. So we doubled the amount of money that the seller put in, and that for the seller was just, you know, how often can you put $1 into the stock market and get $2 in less than 4 or 5 weeks, right? It's pretty unusual. It's very hard, but real estate right now, with market demand being what it is, we're seeing the kind of results that putting money in will generate a higher and better price. And so what I want to do now is just go back over here for just a second. And Can you all still see me? By the way, I'm taking myself off. Oh, you noticed the beard, John. Thank you. And you see my face and my office. Good. Thanks, Clarence. Good. Yeah, this is my office. We're getting ready for the spring market, so things are a little topsy turvy. Can you all still see me? Yes. Okay, good. This gives me a chance to look at the presentation while I'm chatting with you. You see me, but I'm looking at the presentation. So this is my 33rd year in real estate, over 3,500 transactions now. Again, we average about 160 homes. I'm a seniors real estate specialist, which means that I work a lot on that demographic that's downsized. And I understand the challenges that our older folks are dealing with when they oftentimes have too much stuff. So, I think we all are guilty of that. With my 5 kids, my wife and I are looking at downsizing all the stuff that we have in the house, and probably selling in the not too distant future. And so, that's a challenge. But isn't it always a challenge? Doesn't it seem like we're always collecting things? Sometimes we don't even realize what we have collected. We pick up things along the way of life, and then they take a spot in a corner. And after a period of time, we kind of forget that they're there. They become a part of the furniture. They become a part of the background of our lives. So we know how to go through that process and guide you. Also, I'm a Dave Ramsey endorsed local provider. So Dave Ramsey is an international financial advisor. He has just an incredible enterprise and really focuses on keeping people out of debt. So investing in your future, saving money, killing debt, and then investing in long-term wealth creation. I host a weekly radio show on WMAL on Sunday mornings at 8 o'clock. This is my 16th year of doing that. It's hard to believe. And I've also founded a nonprofit organization called Widow Care. Widow Care is a nonprofit at widowcare.org. It's run by a widower and a widow who guide widows and widowers through a weekly social connection, now done by Zoom, currently, of course. It's really turned into a wonderful organization, serving a couple hundred widows, widowers here in the DMV each year. A little bit of background on myself. And then my team, I've got 8 supporting staff, one of whom is a licensed and very productive agent. But I believe that if you're going to market a home effectively, you need to have the right people on the bus to be able to tell the story about the house. And we've got a director of marketing, a marketing assistant, a videographer, and a few inside sales agents. And then on the team side, we have multiple agents from Washington, D.C., Maryland, and Virginia. So we appreciate if you consider us and interview our team when the time comes to sell. We're licensed in Maryland, D.C., and Virginia, but we also help you find real estate agents anywhere in the country. We provide excellent referrals outside by vetting them carefully. And then the majority of our homes sell in 10 days or less and at 100% of asking price currently. Many cases, they're over the asking price. Just sold a home for $130,000, $126,000, dollars over the asking price. Unbelievable. This is not uncommon. And the sweet spot in the market is south of $1 million, although the property I just mentioned to you was $2.5 million and sold for $2.625. So it's pretty incredible. We're just in a time where I think folks are unsure about what is real value. The ability to have a home and have security, I think, is a big demand, especially with COVID. The condominium market has been hit hard, and it's challenging to sell condominiums like it hasn't been. Not to say it is impossible. It's just that the overall demand for most condominiums has dropped because folks want to have freedom of space, a little bit of breathing room, and that kind of thing. That'll shift once we get through COVID, but right now that's the way it is. We provide care, obedience, accountability, loyalty, and disclosure to our clients. And it's a funny word, obedience, to say, but some of this is prefaced, by the way, for where we're going on the condition. The idea of obedience is that we will tell you what we think, and then we will do what you ask. It's incredibly important that you know that we'll always have your back. And when we go into this market, and we have to recognize, like we all know now, that we have to wear masks when we go outside. We go places, we're wearing masks. And with this new strain of coronavirus, we have to be even more careful because apparently it's 70% more contagious, which is, I don't know how they figure out the percentage that way, that it's 70% more contagious, but it implies that you've got 10 people in a room, and if only two people or one person was going to catch it, you probably will get two or three that will catch it. So we have to be more careful. And I think we've all been, I don't know about you, but I've been touched by many friends who've had loved ones who've died of it, oftentimes older Americans. But I almost lost a dear friend of mine at 55 years of age about 3 weeks ago. He was sick, 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 12 days with a fever, oxygen levels low. But we, cried out in prayer and thank God he came through it, was able to survive it, and he's okay. So very important that we carefully consider how we're marketing real estate and use condition as best as we can. And so with coronavirus coming in, it has affected our ability to prepare our houses. You oftentimes won't be able to get all the work done to get the house ready because you can't donate the things that you used to, because a lot of the donation places are overwhelmed with donations. If everybody's home, nobody's at the office during the business day, people have time that where they would have been commuting, where they can be going through closets and organizing, right? That's the nature of the business. So we focus on these three aspects: downsizing, decluttering, and staging. Now, you might think, well, God, that all sounds kind of similar rather. But downsizing, there are really three different ways we can downsize the stuff that we have, and who can help us through that, and how do I go through the process of downsizing? We're about to cover that. We'll cover decluttering, which is the 5 things you can do with anything that you own. And what I'm covering today, by the way, is in our right sizing guide. And if you guys would if you would like a copy of that, I would be very happy to mail you a hard copy of the right sizing guide. I simply need you to send an email or go to ericstewartgroup.com, but you can send an email to marketing@ericstewartgroup.com and make the request. The right sizing guide has the decluttering tools, the GNOME method in there, questions you can ask about any item, which we'll cover today. And then the staging, the benefits of staging. Think about downsizing the stuff, and decluttering is the clearing out, and the staging is then the putting on. It's the way we then present the house after we've done the downsizing and the decluttering. Okay. So let's cover downsizing. The questions to ask are, do you have enough space in your home to store the things that you need to get rid of? Now, I have a home seller who's getting ready to put their home on the market in probably about 5 or 6 weeks. This home seller has got a basement that is completely unfinished, and the upstairs is overpacked. So he's got more than enough room to move the things out of the upstairs and put them downstairs, and still the basement will not be overwhelmed. The key there is to use the walls in the basement not to put stuff in the middle of the floor. It's easy to get around things when it's in the middle of the floor, but when you're selling, you want to show the space in the middle and put things against the walls, okay? If you have the finances, the second question, to move items to storage, so moving them out of the house. If you have the ability to move things into a pod and then get them out, that's good. And do you have the time to move things out? So you may say, look, I just don't have the time. I don't have the emotional energy. Think about that. There's capital that we put into the downsizing process that's not just getting a rental place or getting a truck. It's the emotional process of going through the things that we need to get rid of and letting them go. Sometimes it's better for us to say, look, I can't deal with this stuff right now. I just need to get out of this house and get to another place, and I'll go through my stuff when I get there, when I have less responsibility. Other times you'll have the time now to prepare yourself. Okay, good questions there to ask yourself. Now, when we think about the 3 new ways of downsizing, we have that inter-move management. So that's what I call, this is my term, inter-move management, is you're using the space within the house, like the gentleman with the large basement. You're using that space inside the house to move the things down and store them while you're getting your house sold. Extra move management sounds just like it is, extras outside of, moving those things outside of the house. And then lastly would be virtual move management. What do I mean by virtual move management? It means that you could have stuff in your house that you can't touch, but we really want to present the house better. So we will take pictures and we will scrub the room of all of the pictures of all the furniture that you have, and then we'll drop virtual furniture in its place. And it's a very time-intensive process, but it's extremely effective. Remember, we're selling the house and we're not selling the stuff. So you can present your house virtually staged or actually staged or vacant, but you're still just selling the house. So we got inter, extra, and virtual move management, okay, as those different ways. Now, how do you go through? I created a process in the inter move management of what I call the loading zone. Okay, so the loading zone is an area that you develop in your home. It could be a bedroom, it could be a bay of a garage, where you will put 5 boxes, essentially. It doesn't have to be boxes, it could be a black plastic bag for the throwaway stuff, but you get my point. You're going to keep some things, you're going to give some things to family or friends, you're going to sell some stuff, you're going to donate some things, and you're going to throw some things away. So if you have that space that you can just bring anything that you have into, remember, look at it this way. There was a couple named Jim and Phyllis who wanted to sell their home, and they were referred to me. I went into their house and there was so much stuff everywhere. I mean, everywhere, down the hallways, in the bedrooms, the beds were covered. The master bedroom, you had a king size bed, and the stuff lined the walls and then went up on the foot of the bed. I mean, that wouldn't work for me because I would kick it off every night, but this is stuff on the foot of the bed. And then into this large master bathroom that had one of those giant soaking tubs, you know, the kind that you probably take a bath in every day, right? That's where romance and reality meet. You know, the builders would sell us these soaking tubs that I don't know how many people I actually meet that use them, that it doesn't completely absorb a full tank of hot water so that nobody else can enjoy a hot shower at the same time that you take your bath, right? I mean, it's completely impractical, but it was very much a thing for a long time. And I know people that take baths all the time. I'm not one of those. I'm a shower guy, not a bath guy. Well, this couple, they were not bath people. They had stuff filled through the tub, and then they had a separate shower. Okay, all good, except that I opened the shower up and there was stuff on the shower head bar, that little bar. There's stuff hanging there. And I just, I'm looking at this and I just have that moment pause where I've opened the door and I'm looking at it, I'm like, And I turn around to Phyllis and she says, "Oh, don't worry, don't worry. We take it out when we shower." You know, it was this very funny moment where I realized they had exhausted the space in their house because they didn't know what to do with the things that they owned. They didn't have a process for letting things go, right? So, and oftentimes I created coined this term. I call it the efficiency trap. Well, the efficiency trap is, it's that trap where you decide one day, I'm going to get up and I'm going to start to clean my house. And today I'm going to start in the kitchen. So I walk into the kitchen and my counters are covered with things. And I pick something up off the counter that really belongs out in the garage. It was a tool that I had brought in to the kitchen to snip a flower, and I really need to put it back where it belongs. It belongs back in the garage where that tool drawer is. I go out there, I open that drawer, it's packed. Immediately, I'm feeling like, I don't know if I can do this. Well, you see something in the drawer that belongs in the basement, you're like, oh yeah, that doesn't belong. I'll create some room. And you take that tool and you open the drawer and you put it in there, and you take the other item and you go downstairs to the basement with it, and you go to the storage room, you open the door, and there are all the paint cans covering the floor, and the broken chair that you were going to fix one time with some glue you were going to buy at the Home Depot. Does this sound familiar? And you're going to this room and there is all this stuff, but there you see something. It's like, oh yeah, there's the blender that I needed last summer. I didn't even think to look in here. So you pick the blender up, you put the tool that you found in the garage when you were putting the clippers in the garage door, and you take the blender upstairs, only to realize when you get up there that you bought another blender because you couldn't remember where the blender was. And so you now realize you've got 2 blenders. Now, what do I do with this one? This is what I call the efficiency trap, is that we get caught into moving things around in our houses because we want to be as efficient as possible. But pretty soon we're so discouraged that we're looking for any reason to stop what we're doing. Like, I wonder if the mailman has come. I'm kind of thirsty. I think I'm going to make myself some coffee. This whole downsizing thing is exhausting, right? So you go through this process, and I call it the efficiency trap. Well, Jim and Phyllis, I said, look, you pick up one item. We'll start in the master bedroom. You pick up one item from the corner on your floor. You take it where it belongs. And if you need a black plastic bag so you can throw stuff away, that's fine. But otherwise, you take it. And if it goes to the garage, you take it to the garage and you just stick it on top of stuff. You worry about the garage later. Let's forget about being efficient. Let's focus on this room. Let's make this room downsized. And sure enough, picked up one thing, took it out to the garage, put it out there, just stuck it on top of something. Something else belonged in the kitchen. They just stuck it on the counter. Picked up something else, put it where it belonged, but didn't focus on that clearing the space for the thing that they were taking from the master. Well, about 6 weeks later, I came back to Jim and Phyllis's, and boy, they had made some progress. And Phyllis felt great. She had that sort of light lift kind of ebullience of like giddiness, like Eric, this is so good. I can't believe it. You should see the master bedroom now. I go in the master bedroom. The whole bed is clear. The whole room is clear. I go into the bathroom and the tub is half empty. Like, yeah, good job. All right. So I give them the thumbs up. They start on this process. It took them 6 months. They did it on their own. They didn't hire a professional. They were able to do it themselves. And folks, this is just part of the process that you might need to go through to get ready. Or you can hire professional move managers to assist you that will help you take an item that goes to the garage and they take it for you. And you basically are like a director telling them what you need to get done. You follow? Okay. So this is a good way, is these 5 things you can do with anything. Now, to figure out what you should keep or not, you need to be able to ask yourself a question. This is what we call the gnome method, which is, again, coined phrase for me. I I have a neighbor who's got a gnome on her front porch that holds a sign that says welcome, and it's made of steel. It's gorgeous. But generally speaking, the gnomes that I see are completely unusable. They're just decorative pieces. They oftentimes sit in a box in the basement, covering a shelf somewhere, or they're stuck in a garden. It's a gnome hose holder or something. Anyway, so what do you do with that when it comes time to downsize? Well, the questions that you need to ask yourself are, do I love this? Number 1 question. Number 2 question, do I need this? Number 3 question, do I use this? And if you can get 2 out of 3 yeses, it's good for you to keep the item. If you only get 1, you should think seriously about letting it go. Now, I'll give you a caveat to this, okay? Let's pretend that, like just as an example, let's say you've got a prescription medication. I don't love this, but I need it and I use it. You keep it, right? I got a blender. Well, I use it sometimes. I don't love it, but I kind of need it sometimes. Okay, you keep it, right? But maybe you've got a gnome that you don't use and you don't need, but you love. Well, it's not something you want to keep taking with you, especially when it's time to downsize. So how do you keep the item's memory but let the item go? The key there is going to be taking a video of the item, getting your iPhone and shooting a video of the item and talking about what the memory is. When I was 18 years of age, 1982, I graduated from high school, and the next day I threw my Fuji 10-speed bike under the carriage of a Trailways bus and went to California, to Santa Cruz, California. Rode from Santa Cruz, California for 7.5 weeks across the United States, and I ended up at Bethany Beach, Delaware. Along the way, I picked up little tchotchke. Now, you imagine, right? Picking up something from Knoxville, Tennessee at the World's Fair when I was there in 1982. It's like, wow, that has a really specific memory, and it's something that I don't need and I don't use. It sits in a box, but I love it. I don't need to keep the item. I can create a memory of what it was, but not necessarily have it. Now, you have the trump card here. You have the ability to say, I don't care. I want to keep that item. No problem. The key is for us to, there are going to be grades in your life about things that you own that you feel like, I really don't want to let that go. Okay. And this I can let go. So you make the decision about that. Okay. So those are some tools there. The no method, the 5 things you can do with anything, and then remember not to get caught in the efficiency trap. Okay. The extra move management, you can get a moving company, a junk hauler, local trash pickup, off-site estate sale, donation location, or professional move management company. And if you need referrals for those, certainly let us know. Okay. So then, as we move into sort of the whole virtual move management, we sold a home in Oak Hill, Virginia, back in April, May time of this year, and that property of last year, rather, and that property, the gentleman had, I'm not kidding you, he had probably 350 shirts in his closet. He had a closet that was 30 feet long, maybe 40 feet long, and he and his wife lived alone, and they both had a lot of clothes, but this guy had a lot of clothes, and so he didn't know quite how to approach that, and we needed to get the house on the market to sell it. And I told him what to do, but he couldn't get it done. So we scrubbed the closet of all the clothes, and we took a picture of the closet with the clothes, cleaned it up so that then the closet showed with no clothes. When someone got there, they saw the closet with all the clothes, but they had already seen how big the closet was, and it worked well for marketing that property. So, and then it comes to virtual staging. You might think of this interesting point here. So if you have a house that's got a really grand space and you've got some specific furniture that fits that space that's no longer contemporary or doesn't really fill the space, we may completely replace the furniture in your room, put a rug on the floor, put a table. And again, we're not actually doing that staging. We're not bringing the truck by and putting all that in. We're doing it virtually. And all of the cost of what I'm suggesting is included in our brokerage. So you're not paying something separate. Okay. And by the way, are there any real estate agents who are on this presentation today? Because I want to give you guys a little something extra at the end to help you with your businesses. Okay. So here's an example of where when we have a home that's completely vacant, we may take the pictures of the virtual staging, and we'll put those on easels, and we'll actually have those in the spaces so the buyers can see how a room looked online, even though it's now vacant. Okay, so it's a very effective way of helping the buyer catch the vision of what they've seen online within a vacant space when they actually walk through. When it comes to decluttering, we've already talked about the 5 things you can do with anything you own and the GNOME method. And I touched on what I call memory conversion. And that memory conversion is, we had a seller, she had a collection of 100 antique perfume bottles that she just didn't want to carry into the apartment living she was going to. You know, when you go from, say, 2,000 or 3,000 square feet to 1,400 square feet, you can't take everything with you. And there can be a feeling of loss that when it's like, oh, I'm downsizing, I'm letting go of all the dreams I had. There's really this emotional component to this process that I think is hard for all of us, and some harder for others. Well, this lady had 100 antique perfume bottles that she'd spent a lifetime collecting. What she decided to do was keep the top 5, her top 5 favorite, and the other 95, she took pictures of them. And then she took them over to a printing shop nearby, and she said, here are the images. They downloaded the images. Can you make a poster of these for me? And they did. They put all 100 in the poster, but she kept the 5 out so people could see them, literally see them. Then she hung that poster on the wall so she could remember what she had spent her life collecting and talk about it, because she knew what each one of those perfume bottles was. Funny thing is, I collected comic books back in the early 1980s, and one issue that I bought was one by Walt Simonson, penned the ink for Thor 337. And I remember in college, I loved his art so much, I went and bought every copy that I could. And they were 60 cents a piece I think I got 57 copies by buying them through the mail and whatever. I'm like, these are going to be worth money. Okay. Well, fast forward, I get into real estate about 5 years later, and about 2 years into real estate, I look at that as a distraction, and I get rid of all my comics. And it was fine. It was fine. I got some money for it. I think I got like $4 or $5 an issue for those 60-cent issues. So I made some money. Well, I went back the other day, and I really was like a year ago, and I bought a copy of that for about $30. That's what it cost me, and it was in very fine condition. I went. I've got that in a drawer. I've got that one copy. Now, it may eventually make its way onto a wall, kind of like this memory conversion, where maybe there's just some key things I want to have, key memories that I want to have. And she did this with perfume bottles. You may have items, other items you have. You might have old photos. Big challenge, right? Getting those old photos converted. Well, there are processes now where you can ship all your old photos and someone will take them through a digitization process and send you the photos back. So you still have them if you want to get rid of them or give them away or whatever. And then you've got a copy of all those photos digitized that you can then share with your family. Staging is this process of now capturing interest. And we talked about the virtual staging of a room where we actually aren't bringing furniture in. Literally, we are putting furniture in virtually. Very effective way to do that. And it brings some scale when you do the virtual or the actual staging. We advise each one of our clients to get staging done. We provide a stager who will come in and give you a consultation for a couple of hours. I think Susan, one of our stagers, might be on. Susan, if you're with me today, I know you signed up, and I'm not sure if you've joined us, but if you are, if you would just type in, "I'm here," it'd be nice to know if you're here. So we give counsel to our clients to present as well. And she gives a prescription on what to do to get ready. And we take spaces that are vacant, we take spaces that are packed, and we revisit those. And so there are really those components of that downsizing, decluttering, and staging that make the difference in how we present our houses. And so I'd like to ask you and invite you to ask me any questions. We're coming to the conclusion of our presentation today. As I mentioned to you, we do have a guide which is called the Market Ready Guide that talks about how to get your home ready to sell. We have another one on the right sizing, which covers a lot of what we've covered here today. We're in a challenging market, a market which on the one hand it's difficult to get rid of things, but on the other hand is challenging in that the demand is so great for what we have to sell. And it's just like the tide at the ocean coming in every springtime. In this year, even now, we're putting houses on the market and selling them within 6 days and getting full price and above asking. So we would love for you to entertain us because we're positioning our properties to get that money and get you that top dollar by not selling it too quickly and not overpricing it. We're generating that kind of auction-like effect. We'd love to do that for you as well. So our website is ericstewartgroup.com. I think you all know that. But our toll-free number, if you'd like to call us, is 800-900-9104. Okay, 800-900-9104. All right, so I'll entertain any questions that you might have at this point. Ask away. Oh, yeah. Okay. So as far as the beard is concerned, good question. The beard is a temporary fixture on my face. I grew one last year. Gosh, I guess I started just before Christmas, maybe late November timeframe. No, actually, it was a little earlier than that last year, come to think of it. It was earlier in the fall, and I kept it up until probably the end of January, I think, and then I shaved it. Yeah, in fact, it was the third week of January, and I shaved it last year. So I'll probably keep this for just a little bit longer. I'll clean myself up and cut it off, though my kids all love it. So, anyway, so, all right, good. So, hey, look, you guys are great. I've got time. So if you have any questions you'd like to ask about your preparation process or where you should put money in, or a question about a countertop or floors or the outside of your home or any of those details, ask away. Happy to answer. Okay. Okay. Well, it doesn't appear that you guys have any questions. I'm so sorry that our presentation today could not have been the actual one, which would give you the visual. I mean, here you're seeing me, which is, it's, I think in some ways this gives you a little bit more of that I feel like more of a narrator here, a little bit more engaged with you because I'm able to see you directly and speak to you. Um, so it's good from that. But we'll get this fixed up, and the next time we do the condition presentation, we'll have everything working just fine. If you would like to talk about how to prepare your home specifically, go ahead and give us a call, 800-900-9104. Now's a great time to get your house ready to sell, and we'll send one of our great agents out to meet with you. And Grant, I'll be in touch with you in the next few hours, just as a follow-up to our conversation, okay? All righty. Well, John asked this question, TV Hoarders Show. John, I'm not sure the question. Are you asking me if sorry, what is the question? Do you want me to talk about hoarding specifically, or was there a show that you've seen? I'm not sure I understand the question. Okay. The psychological reasons for clutter. Yeah, so I think that hoarding, there's a big issue there, the psychological reason for clutter. Um, we I was not trained, and maybe you can relate to this, but I was not trained how to decide whether I keep something or not when I got something as a kid. When something is received, what is the proper way to receive something, evaluate it, and then decide when it's no longer necessary and let it go? And I think that therefore, as I received things, I didn't have the capability of deciding this is really important or that's not so important. Yeah, I kept old things from when I was a kid, pictures when I was a kid, a poster that I made in the 5th grade. There are some things like that. It's like, oh, I want to keep that. I could recognize that importance, but I'm talking about, stuff. And like many of us, I've gone through these purging processes. The hoarding sometimes is a conglomeration of a variety of issues. Um, it's a fear of letting go. It's a fear of not knowing, and therefore putting off the decision whether it's important, and then getting to the point where you put off. You're really good at putting things off. I call it avoiding pain. I think it's a challenge for many of us that avoid the pain of saying goodbye to things because we want things to remain the same. And unfortunately, life is not that way. Just in the same way that life isn't fair. Somebody who doesn't deserve something gets something, and somebody who does deserve doesn't. And, that's the reality of life, unfortunately. So, learning to accept that is a challenge. And I think that, especially as we get older and get older and get older, it becomes harder and harder and harder to actually shift that. Um, I went through a process this last year of going through a 12-step program, which was, for me, I saw a tendency for me to avoid pain in my life in relationships. I'm not I'm not a hoarder by any means. So that's not really the sort of the symptom of the issue. It had more to do with me about working and being not working, but going deep with my family, going deep with my friends, and that I was keeping things fairly surface. And as I recognized this area of my life, I didn't really know how to change that. And a friend of mine told me he had gone through a 12-step program called Celebrate Recovery, which only maybe a third of the folks that attend are actually dealing with coping mechanisms like alcohol or otherwise. The rest of folks are dealing with things like I was, which might have been an eating disorder. Like I have a tendency, like somebody had a tendency to overeat, somebody had a tendency to gamble, somebody had a tendency to dishonesty. These are the different tendencies, and it could be anything. So it's just recognizing where your tendency is and getting honest about it, and then how do you change that? How do you turn your will over? And I guess my point in bringing this up even is to say that we have to decide that it's time, and it's time to change, and having the steps necessary to go through a process of evaluating the change from a real estate, from a professional perspective. I've got the tools here to help you accomplish the goal that you're trying to get through. You may also, and hoarders and other folks, whatever their challenges are, may find the benefit of actually going through a program like that where they can learn how to change over time. And I think it's good. It's a good education for all of us. Do you not agree? we all have tendencies. We all have hurts, habits, and hangups, is what Celebrate Recovery says. So, and it's at churches all over the the district in Maryland and Virginia. Although right now, it's mostly done online. So anyway, I sold a house. I'll finish this today with this quick story about this pair of hoarders whose house I sold. Gentleman and his wife listened to my show on WMAL, and I came out and I come up to the front door, and the door cracks open, and this guy, he's in this white wife beater type T-shirt, with stains and stuff, and his hair is kind of frazzled out, and he's like, "Hello," and I said, "Yeah, hey, it's Eric Stewart. I am here to see you about helping you sell your house." He said, "All right, come on in. Just watch your step." I walk in the front door, and it smells like smoke, and he's got a cigarette, and the house smells like smoke. And I look over to the right as I walk into the foyer of this 1935 home, and the ceiling had collapsed in on top of a huge pile of stuff that was there, like just storage stuff, kind of like we were talking about, just stuff. Walk into the dining room space, stuff, and it's dirty. He takes me down to the basement, shows me the basement, which is an unfinished basement with a cot. Looks like something from Stalag 17, the old movie from the 50s with William Holden. This is where the guy sleeps. His wife sleeps upstairs. They're separated in the house. It's a really difficult situation for both of them. She's not home. He takes me upstairs into, shows me the bedrooms and stuff. And in one of the bedrooms, he's got this desk that looked like something from the Nixon White House. It was like 7 feet long and 4 feet deep. And he had, an ashtray that looked like, something you would have found at a Ponderosa steakhouse or something. And it's just, full of ash. And, he's like, "Go ahead, have a seat," and I'm sitting there across from him. And he starts asking questions of me, and I answer the questions, and he's like, "Yeah, well, we need to sell, but I don't want anybody in here. I don't want anybody in here," he says. And I said, "Okay." Now, I learned a while back that a great response for a real estate agent is, "No problem, we can do that," because anything can be accomplished in the sale of real estate, regardless of whether you need to get somebody in, whether you don't want to have a sign, whether you don't want a lockbox. In other words, every home can be sold. It just requires some creativity in the process. This is a guy who was never going to change his ways, and his wife the same. And the house was going to be just like it is when it was sold. And for that matter, no one was allowed to come into the house. And yet, within a few weeks, I was still able to sell the house because I convinced the seller to allow for the buyer, whoever would buy it sight unseen, to be able to do a home inspection after they purchased. Therefore, they came in, they made sure there were no major issues. In fact, there weren't. Yeah, the ceiling had fallen in, and yeah, the kitchen was yucky, and the basement, but the walls were fine. There was no water penetration. Property was in a good location. So all this was good, and property sold and went to settlement just fine. So folks, you may feel like you're overwhelmed or maybe not able to get out or otherwise, but we can still sell the house. We know how to handle that. And I do appreciate your time today. Thank you for being a part of our condition webinar. And this is a very unusual presentation today, doing it this way. I hope it's been helpful. I hope you got a good sense of it. Again, for more information, go to ericstewartgroup.com. If you'd like a free copy of the right sizing guide, just send an email to marketing@ericstewartgroup.com with a request, and we'll take care of getting that out to you by mail. Okay? All right. Well, I think that's it for today. Really appreciate you all being here. God bless you and take care. Okay? All right. Bye.